Hey, so this is week 2 of my Lattice training program, and this week I take some of the lessons I learned from week 1 and I apply them to my second week of training just to see, just to further fine-tune my training to myself. The main thing I did here was I started doing 2 sessions a day for some of my climbing training sessions just because I didn't have so much time to rest evenly throughout the week, and I was really fatigued on the later sessions during the week. So this time I went 2 sessions a day, and we'll see how that goes. Finishing up some hangboarding here. And this was the first climbing session of the week. And it was 20-minute projecting on about 3 climbs. So there I'm going on this black line here, and it starts off on a pretty tiny crimp and a really bad left foot for me. And it goes to a pretty solid there left hand. This shoulder bump into the Gaston is what I saw a lot of people doing, so that's what I ended up doing as well. But you can see it's really strenuous, and I do actually end up experimenting with some other beta that you'll see later on, but for now at least I just try to make that bump move work. As you can see there, with these next 2 attempts, I'm attempting to make that right hand flip work for me, and it's just much harder because that right hand crimp is smaller than the hold that I'm starting on, so really tiny, and having the precision to hit that flip move is really difficult. Yeah, this is my last attempt on the boulder. I was running out of time. Let's see it. And I tried that flip move again. It actually ended up hurting my right elbow quite a bit, and so time was up. I ended up not sending that boulder. So I moved on to this blue, pretty powerful first move, especially on that left sloper that I'm brushing here. It was very, very negative. So you just have to hold a lot of tension between that and the right heel. Saved myself with that toe hook there. The heel here feels really solid. Now that right crimp isn't as good as it looks, I think, if your body positioning ends up being wrong, as it does here. It does end up blowing off and you do fall off the boulder. So everything up until that last move has to be really dialed in. And there I just forgot the beta for the start, and just ended up bouldering off. I knew it was going to happen kind of the moment I hopped onto the boulder. I mixed up the hand beta here so that my right hand is on the more solid crimp versus that real side pull looking one. So I ended up sending this. My last project for my first session here is this black slab problem. And the first couple of moves are actually really easy. The crux is kind of this next move after this, going up. There's a little tiny black pinch just to the right of that blue hold. and that's what we're aiming for. So it's really high, and you have to hit it with a lot of precision and have your hips really close to the wall. And there, yeah, my hips just fired out, so I didn't get it properly. This is actually the send go. Unfortunately, there was someone in between, kind of like me in the climb, so it's kind of hard to. It's going to be kind of hard to see the whole send. Feel free to skip forward if you don't want to just look at it through like someone's arm. The key thing there is that you do see I stuck that pinch, kept my body close to the wall, pulled myself in a little bit, and the last bit wasn't that hard. Just maintaining composure and being able to pull on that tiny crimp. And here quickly we do see the end of the boulder there. And finish off the core session. Overall, session 1 felt pretty good. Session 2 was mainly just conditioning, and I didn't video that. Essentially just doing some pull-ups and TRX work. So this is session 2, and the main goal of this session was to do a 3x3, meaning I picked 3 boulders, and the goal was to do them 3 times each. So I started off with this black boulder. The first send, my friend Kevin here's in the way, but the next 2 sends will be unobstructed. It felt like a pretty soft black, and so it felt pretty easy, just some big holds, and I think my height really helped out a lot with this boulder. Now you'll get to see it kind of without anyone in the way. Now my main goal with this boulder really is to make this first move to the big volume as smoothly as possible with kind of a minimal amount of readjustment, and to maintain a lot of tension when I'm on those higher jugs, so that I'm not moving my feet around too often. I want to just pick my feet, settle into them, and move on. And I was cheering on my friend there. On to the next one. This orange crimpy problem here, and with like a jug kind of halfway in between. This is probably the first problem not the first problem, but this is one of the few problems I've tried where I have really had to work on maintaining tension throughout kind of like my entire body. This left hand crimp and that right hand crimp are actually really small. They're basically just like ridges in the holds, and holding that tension and being spread out like that is really difficult. Once you get to this jug, you just have to make sure you're not too pumped on that crimp, and you move your way up. A different angle coming up here, so now you get to see it a little bit more head on. And you really get to see kind of like how spread out I am, and these sort of like starting hand holds and foot holds. So as you can see, really trying to get the weight over those feet here, and making sure I'm trying to be as efficient as possible for those start moves, so that this next move to the jug is hopefully not as spicy as that all the time. But I was just really tired after that first attempt. This last attempt, you can't see the top of the boulder, but we've already seen 2 attempts on it, so I'm going to assume you all know what it looks like. You can really see my elbows starting to point outwards. I was getting really pumped, especially on these tiny crimps, using basically every bit of body positioning I could to make sure that I could get up this problem. And this next orange line is the last problem I chose because it's pumpy and crimpy, and none of the feet are as good as you want them to be. So you really had to focus on body positioning, and I wanted to be a little evil to myself for this last problem. I actually don't end up getting the first send on it, so you get to see a good little struggle for this first attempt. And the main issue there was just my right foot was really poor on that volume, and I can't pull enough on it to get into that right crimp enough to hold tension through my shoulder. I just kind of was able to touch it with my hand and pull on it a little bit, but not in the direction that's required for that hold. So I tried something a little bit different in this attempt. Hit my elbow there on that down climbing jug, but that's okay. Luckily, I didn't fall off. And this is the last attempt, and also the end of my climbing session on this day. I gotta say, training strength intervals and drop intervals in the same day is probably not something I'm gonna try to do again. Really tired me out and was max effort for me.